Hello and good morning. Welcome to the Coffee Table
Very.
Talks. I am Rachel Arnold, the Human API with Secure Nation. With me, as always, is my co-host Will McCullen. Wave, everybody. He is the program manager for the IT Center for Excellence at Pima Community College in Tucson, Arizona, and also is hanging out in the YouTube channel. Little basic bits of housekeeping before we get to our fabulous guest. Remember, if you chat in the live sessions via YouTube, Twitch, and LinkedIn, your comments can be seen by all of your friends and family and the entirety of the internet, like right over there. So don't embarrass anybody, including yourselves. We love you very much. As always, Meg is moderating in the background. Thank you, Meg Jett, for doing all the things that you do. Today, our guest is Mariana Padilla. Hello, and how are you?
Hi, thanks so much for having me today. Really looking forward to this conversation.
Me too. I know you and Will are chatting a bit in the background about all kinds of stuff, and we're going to be probably kicking this off with, how does a school teacher become the CEO of the HACKERverse?
It was a long and winding road. I feel like there's a song in there somewhere that we could write a song about the long and winding road to becoming a CEO. Yeah, I mean, took a couple turns, obviously. I think the common thread through everything that I've done is storytelling. Right. So it doesn't matter if you're a teacher, especially a teacher. So the best teachers are often storytellers who can tell the stories and get, students engaged in that. But spent some time in nonprofit before moving into marketing, started my own marketing agency, and then joined the HACKERverse, which I guess 10,000 foot view will give a quick introduction. We are working to solve the cybersecurity sales problem. And we do that through using generative AI to spin up product proof of concepts. And are building a self-service proof of concept platform so buyers can come in and do tool evaluation on their own time. But really kind of what drew me to HACKERverse. One, love my co-founder. We've been working together for about 2 years, have a really great working relationship, which is critical, obviously, co-hosts, co-founders, you obviously work together a lot. You have to have a great relationship. But I think with everything that I've done, I have to feel some sort of emotional connection to it. If I'm not, if I don't feel like I'm making an impact, I don't give a shit about it, and I won't be good at it. And I feel like in general, cybersecurity people feel called to the mission. They feel called to make an impact, like we're making the world a better, safer place. And so found myself here kind of accidentally and wouldn't be anywhere else. So this is, you're stuck with me, cybersecurity world. Sorry.
and that's awesome. So let me hit the nerd point, right? Because the whole HACKERverse thing, that's about creating entire environments in there on the fly and being able to play with, figure out, explore. It sounds very much like your instant dev environment. And for folks out there that are trying to do stuff, that can be very expensive and very difficult to try to put all that up at once in your own environment. Make a complete separate environment to do so. So that's cool stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. We think so. I think, so version of the platform now, and the dogs say hello.
Hello.
I think my kids are getting picked up right now. So, of course, the timing of this is impeccable.
Perfect. It's perfect. What are you talking about?
Right? So the version of the platform now is that you will be able to come in and do self-service POC evaluation of one tool. But what came up a lot in early conversations with customers was, I really want to be able to evaluate how all of these tools perform together. And so that will be in version 2 in probably mid 2025. So you can see how, a SIM performs with an XDR, whatever tools you want to, play with together. So you can drag and drop them into the what we call arenas and see how they perform together. Obviously, the goal of any cybersecurity company should be to provide peace of mind at the end of the day. I think there's a conversation to be had around how venture capital has twisted that mission. We really want to bring back things to the roots. Like, we want customers to know that they are secure at the end of the day, and we think if they can make better purchasing decisions, that we can help. We can help with that. So that's where we're headed.
That's fantastic. And the part that I love is that you still have the cause and mission still heavily linked in there, besides just the profit motive. Right?
Absolutely. Which, I mean, you've seen a lot about that with which VC company, I can't remember. It was CyberStart. There's a lot of conversation around how they reward CISOs for, purchasing products from portfolio companies. I don't want to become a lightning rod. If you're interested in learning more about that, you can go do some research. But there's a lot of sometimes shady things that happen behind the scenes in terms of which products get purchased and which ones don't. And I will leave it at that.
But wait a minute. Hang on. Did you just glaze right over that? Wait a minute. Because I know some of those things.
Yes.
I know a lot of those things from the client side as well as from the reseller side, right? Because that's what we do at Secure Nation. We're a boutique reseller. So one of the reasons why I selected to work with Secure Nation, other than John Davis, Kim McCartney, and Meg Jett are some of the best people I've ever worked with in my life, is because John sat me down, right? And he was like, this is what the industry is, and this is why we're different. And we don't publicly say that really loud for the same reason why you just glazed over. There's some shady things that happen, right? Is because there are reselling houses out there that could drive very slowly past my house, right? Like,
right.
Like, I got little kids, right? Like, I don't want to anger the mafia. And he was like, but this is how we do it, and we do it where it's not. We are partner focused, but we're not. That's not the priority. The priority is what the client is wanting, right? Because if we partner more closely with the partner, the idea is that instead of getting all these accolades from the partner side as the reseller, as this middleman person, right? We will be able to become friends and trusted partners of our client, right? And that's how we exist. That's how we do stuff. That's how I feed my kids, right? Like, and I loved that. But also I was very naive. And I didn't understand how crappy some of the other things are. Like, Will, for instance, what was it? Was it a week ago or two? I shared with you in our super secret squirrely chat. I shared with the group. We have a super secret squirrely chat. It's only trusted.
Love it.
You can't get in it. Sorry. No, you can't.
Squirrels is in the title.
You can't sit with us, and we do wear pink on Wednesdays. That I was like, look at this partner margin compared to the customer margin. And that's the stuff that a lot of people don't know about, is just one, I have seen contracts with price points come through where and I get why so much of the industry is kicking resellers out. I get it. They've burned them, burned them up. And I think it's this sales-minded drive that is pushed so hard within some other corporations that you have to hit your number.
Right.
You have to hit your number. If you don't hit your number, you don't work here anymore. Right. So that puts people in this horrible position where they're really, really okay with doing some really crappy things. Right. Because I can't lose my job. Right. Kind of situation. Right. So whenever you go to purchase software through your reseller, what you hope to happen is that the reseller has such a large book of business, right? That the partner's like, we want to give you the best deal possible because we may have the best thing that fits a lot of different environments, right? And we want you to think of us and how nicely we treated you, right? And a lot of times the reselling partner will give that back to the customer at just jacked up. The price is all the way jacked up. They're like, great, look at all the margin for me.
Right.
And they'll never, and the end user, the customer is never the wiser.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the shady crap.
Right.
That's
yeah. Well, let me tack on to that. Okay. Because from a customer perspective, I come from higher ed and man, we get inundated. But the whole concept is that when it comes down to brass tacks, you're trying to get from the customer side, get something that works, that can be solid, that can benefit you. And that's the beauty of your element, Rachel, is that you come on not as a sales, but as a partner, right?
Yeah, it's different, right? Because my goal is that, and it's the goal, and John Davis is the one that taught me this phrase, so I don't want to take credit for that. He's like, I want you to pick me up, carry me around the room, screaming shish boom ba, shish boom ba, shish boom ba, right? Going
shish boom ba.
There you go, shish boom ba. Yeah,
I was never. Can you tell I was never a cheerleader? Not really. So
it was also the longest running joke on the Carson show. I mean, the longest laughter. But
thank you.
That's a side note.
But and that made sense to me because I had worked in like as a client relationship person in other industries where I used to joke and say I'm the worst salesperson ever, but I'll be your best friend. Like I really like if whatever company I worked for, like when I worked for the chemical company, well, you've heard me tell this before. When I worked for Ecolab, they were like, this new blah blah product and it's gonna make cleaning for every hotel so much blah 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 blah, right? And it was my job to go into the current clients that I took care of or customers that I took care of and tell them all about this amazing product that's going to save their life and time and so much and all this, that, and the other. I gave them a flyer and I was like, they have new stuff, but your stuff is still working really well. Let me know when there's a problem. And they're like, great, that's awesome. And what would end up happening was whenever they did need something, because I wasn't the pushy jerk, they would just, let's call Rachel because we know she's not going to sell us bullshit. Right? Like,
and along with that, in the education environment.
Yeah.
No names, but there are companies out there that are creating, the whole cybersecurity thing, create a lab, right? And charge incredible amounts of money for it so that you have to go out and get a grant. And after 3 years, you're stuck because you can't afford it. And it takes, higher ed takes about that long to get things going.
Yep.
And so when it comes down to brass tacks, it's how can you create partnerships and how can we take the whole industry and make it work together? And Mariana, when we were talking earlier, it sounds like this is a touch point for you, right?
Oh my gosh. You got me up on my soapbox. You're going to have a hard time getting me down.
Fantastic. It is an hour-long show. We're good. We like soapboxes here.
I mean, I think there's a broader macroeconomic conversation to be had here, which is if you're taking venture capital money, which, we're fundraising and we will be taking venture capital money, but we want to be very choosy about who we're taking it from, which you have to be, because if you're taking money from investors who you expect a return within 3 to 5 years, they can and will do everything in their power to make sure that goal is met, including firing founders and cutting your legs out from under you, firing whole teams. They will do anything that they need to do to get a return on that investment, right? Because they are beholden to the organizations and people who have invested in their fund, right? And so, that because of these expectations, and if we even take it back to 2021, 2020, 2019, where you had these investments made at wild valuations. If you have a wild valuation that isn't necessarily justified, the expectation is that you will be meeting certain revenue goals. And because you have to meet those revenue goals, going back to what you were just talking about, Rachel, which is like you have to meet this number or you're done, you're out of the business. Everyone is, working day and night to make sure that these revenue goals are met because they have to meet the expectations of their investors, who then have have to pay back the investors in their funds. So it's like a pyramid scheme, an investor pyramid scheme that leaves the bottom, the people at the bottom scrambling to make their numbers at all costs, whether or not the product they're selling is right for the customer that they're talking to, whether or not, it's going to do what the product says it does, whether or not the product is mature enough to even be sold, right? So I think there's a lot of conversation, I think, that needs to be had in the industry around what am I trying to say? Warped expectations and warped motivations for selling products, which is very ironic because we're supposed to be like the trust industry. So I think that's what bothers me the most about it, is that we are supposed to be the industry that secures people. We are supposed to bring you peace of mind. And what we've been talking about, sometimes it doesn't happen because you've been sold a product that doesn't meet your needs because someone needs to meet their number.
Right. Or do you know how many incentives I get? Used to get so many incentives, and I still do, but I used to, like when I was working in conjunction, sorry to interrupt you, when I was working alongside the Innocent Lives Foundation, which is this great group of folks. It's a nonprofit that looks for, basic, I don't want to just trigger warning everybody. Anyway, look at the ILF if you want to know what they do. Cause I'm thinking like, I don't want to trigger anybody. It's Friday before a holiday. Like, come on. But anyway, it's a great group of volunteers that do some wonderful things to help protect children online, from would-be baddies. Okay. So I used to get so many incentives thrown at me and it felt so slimy.
Yeah.
They're like, you get this X amount of, like, it felt like selling out your friends. Right. It's like, you get this X amount of dollars for setting up a meeting. You get this X amount of dollars for qualifying a meeting. And for those not in sales, if you don't know what qualifying means, there's some different things depending on what it is that you're selling. But it's basically, they're going to buy stuff. It's basically like at the end of it. And it's going to be from this, right? Or for closing a deal, right? That was the other one. It was the X amount for closing the deal. I set up a thing through Shane McCombs and the ILF that was called Demos for Donations. And it was to take those incentives, like they would feature the different vendors that were pushing sales incentives for whatever quarter or yearly or whatever. And instead of it going to me, it would go to the Innocent Lives Foundation. I raised a disgusting amount of money for that. Like, it was gross. But that, I mean, it's that kind of thing where other people, like, I'm lucky that I don't have to compromise some of those things about myself. And I don't hate on anybody that takes advantage of those situations. That's why those sales incentives are out there, is they're hoping to dangle bait, right? I get it. Yeah. But I just can't do it. Right. I just can't.
Right. Well, there's a whole organization, a whole new startup that is also trying to work to solve the cybersecurity sales problem, but they're doing it by offering CISOs like $500 gift cards just to get on a demo. I'm like,
right? Yeah. And then so many of those CISOs, like, depending on what industry they work in, they're under constraint. It's not only like, okay, you're like, this feels unethical. Their company tells them you cannot accept gifts above this limit. Kind of thing. And that was the other great thing about the Demos for Donations, was that if there were those kind of incentives, we could steer it to that too, right? As like, well, you can donate the incentive they're trying to gift to you directly, right? If you want to do that. But I would tell people about, I don't know. I think I'm broken. I would just tell my friends, I'm like, look, company X is doing this incentive, and Will's seen me share it in our little super secret squirrely chat too, where I'm like, hey, these people are offering incentives and I'm going to donate it to here. Does anybody want to jump on a call with me? Like, and doing it that way. And I always felt way better about it. And they did too, because then they knew 100% what was going on. Right. It didn't feel slimy or underhanded, and back to the margin, like, discrepancy between what a partner may get based on what the customer is going to see. I've done stuff before where I've asked, the person putting together quotes and stuff. I'm like, can you please show what our margin is? I want to make sure that they know how much, because I'm talking about margins of like 30 and up %. Yeah. Okay. And if you're buying 100,000, if you as a team are buying $100,000 worth of software. One, run it by Mariana at HACKERverse first. Two, the salesperson probably is making like 30 grand on that.
Yeah.
Probably. Whereas here, I'm like, I'm not going to make that much, and I'm going to pass some of that savings on to you so that you can save that bit of room in your budget to, I don't know, get that contractor you needed to also do the professional services to like implement, right? Or test or QA or develop, whatever else it is that you need.
Right.
That way, because I feel like it's their money anyway.
Right.
Yeah. Well, also on top of that, and I apologize for running off camera because I've got around here somewhere. I don't know if folks realize, but at DEF CON, the government had a lot larger showing than it has in the past. And one of the things that they were handing out from CISA was it's become really clear, and they're very, very concerned, and everyone should be, is that our adversaries are going to be coming after us in a big way very soon, to which kind of makes a whole bunch of this a moot point, right? So if enough chaos starts in the nation, we got to be secure.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and part of that is making sure that the implementation and, you know what I mean, is making sure that people, one, have the resources to get any kind of tooling that they may need to fill gaps, right? And then two, having places like what Mariana's doing with HACKERverse, right? To give people that opportunity to test these things out, to run them, to see how they can be configured. And do you guys set up, if requested, you will set up basically a copy of the client environment.
Yes.
Right. Yep. So they can like test in production, but not really break stuff.
Right.
Like,
yep.
That's handy.
Yep. Like, absolutely.
But you're doing this all with a cyber aspect and trying to make that difference. How are you approaching that and attacking that? I mean, we all are in this trying to make a difference. What are some of your aspects of how you can make that difference and change things?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, it's actually kind of the impetus for the whole company. Actually, my co-founder has been in cybersecurity for about 30 years. He's been plugged into DEF CON since very, very early on. And what actually happened was that he was building some demo and POC environments for companies he was working for, testing out the products in these cyber range environments, and found out that one of the products that he was selling didn't actually do what it said it was going to do, totally missed a vulnerability that they had been raving about their effectiveness against. And so it was like a light bulb moment for him, like, holy crap, like we need to have a better way of testing and evaluating tools and making sure consumers know, there's no consumer reviews, I don't think, of cybersecurity products. There's no, like, I guess there's Forrester, there's Gartner, but there's a whole other conversation there about how that works.
Well, they kind of broke out with
you guys. Right? Wait. If you guys didn't know, I'm so sad. I feel like we're just lifting too much of the veil here. And
I know the covers have been lifted on this one.
Bad. So there are, I don't want to name them as that though, but there are peer review sites that are like, come check out these peer reviews. Number one, you have to subscribe to get like the really in-depth truth about these.
Right.
You should feel like that is sus, because it's sus. The second thing is the people that get their names on those sites also have to pay a fee.
They've paid. Right.
Who's going to that party at the conference? Because it's a nice party, right? I can always tell who are the biggest grifters in the industry by how nice the party is.
Right. Well, I mean, it's like $40,000-$60,000 to get these meetings with these analysts to have them review. I mean, that's a big. I'm so sorry. Hold on.
You're fine. You're good. So yeah, no, the sparkliest party at the conference. Just remember that they may be really nice and doing nice things, but there's a reason why they have so many extra marketing dollars to throw at alcohol and open bars. Okay, there's a reason. Anyway, so get you some friends together that are in the industry, or you can get them. I mean, in cybersecurity, right? Like, grab a few. I've known people. I don't want to name names, is what I'm trying to do. So I'm stumbling, is because I'm trying not to out anybody. But there are,
and the dogs are expressing their displeasure in the background. They're really agitated about this.
there,
It's also shady.
Go circle up, sign an NDA between you and your friends, and talk about some of the things in your tech stack that aren't working out quite right.
Rachel, are you trying to say always be circumspect of the second slide in almost every sales presentation?
I am. That's what I'm trying to say, but that's what I'm trying to say.
But anyhow, Mariana, you were going after the point there.
Yes. Oh, we were talking about just, like the peer review sites and, yes. Okay. Then we talked about Forrester Gartner, how you have to pay to play in that situation. Yeah. So the impetus for the whole company was just recognizing that some of these things didn't perform and being like, we need to give buyers more autonomy in the purchasing process, because it should be about the buyers. It should not be about revenue goals. Right. And obviously I'm not advocating for not having a high performing business. That's not what I'm saying. I think there's room for both, right? I think there's room for ensuring that customers get the right products in their hands, ensuring that they get the best products in their hand that meet their needs, not some wild, contract that they've massively overpaid for, don't have the internal capacity to even implement or run, which came up a lot in conversations. I did so many customer discovery calls in 2023. I have some stories to tell. But ultimately, that is the impact we're trying to make, is ensure that people can do good, solid testing on their own time, not have, misleading information, or have to pay to play it, or, in terms of Forrester Gartner, these, peer review or partner review. So that's the impact that we're trying to make, is just making sure that people buy the right tools and can do so and have more autonomy in the purchasing process. Because I think there's not a lot of autonomy in the way things are sold currently.
In the pre-show, you talked a lot about some of your frustration with communication, and how that's kind of broken in the industry. From your unique perspective, do you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so I think helpful information here is that I have a marketing background. So I constantly have my marketing hat on. And I would say that I would give the industry as a whole maybe a D- in terms of how it communicates internally. If you're talking about people externally have no idea what the hell is going on, they heard about the CrowdStrike outage because they were impacted by the flight outages or something like that, or they got a letter in the mail talking about how.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Could CrowdStrike have partnered with the HACKERverse to test out their update before pushing it out?
They could have, CrowdStrike. You're interested in not having that ever happen again.
I know that seems like I plotted that in advance, but I did not.
You mean testing is a good thing?
You mean to tell me that company? Wait. So what? I've never been on that side. What does testing look like now for update? How does that work? Do we have anybody that's a QA?
I know, right?
In the audience, what does that process look like right now? And how? Just think about that guy. Look, I know this is gonna sound real cheesy, but I'm just saying. Think about how you can add HACKERverse to your situation. Anyway, I'm sorry. Continue.
No. I think just as you were talking about earlier, that nation states coming at us, trying to wreak havoc. Security impacts all of us, all ages, all walks of life, everyone. And we in the industry have done such a bad job of communicating that, other than terrifying people to the point they're like, I don't know, we're all going to be impacted. I'm just going to throw my hands up in the air, or my business is too small, it doesn't matter, or whatever it is. And so I think that we need to do a better job of communicating to the general public why what it is that we do is important. Between teams, I think that there's a lot of conversation to be had around how security teams communicate the value of what they do to leadership and boards and stakeholders. We've seen a lot of layoffs and budgets being reduced, which is crazy to me in a time when the threats are mounting and AI is wreaking havoc. And, I don't know how close we are to any sort of quantum threat, but that's out there like lurking on the horizon too. And nation state actors and we can't take the foot off the accelerator. And I'm just wondering how much of that is because we've failed to communicate effectively the value proposition of what we do. And to the general public as a whole, like we have to have better conversations in ways that make sense to people, like keep it simple, stupid. KISS. That was my rule of marketing. Like keep it simple. Like there's marketing jargon out the wazoo too, but I found that the best campaigns I did was just like keeping it simple and regular everyday Joe language and making it applicable to everyone. So that's something I'm very passionate about.
that comes from the teacher background, right?
It does.
Effective communication is not how well you presented it. It's how well it was understood.
Understood. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's one of the first things you're taught as like an entrepreneur. And there's, this whole conversation about the croc brain back in your like evolutionary history about how much things people actually remember. And so you may think you're doing the best job ever communicating, but your audience has only heard or remembered 1 out of the 8 things that you have said. So you really have to dial it back. And this may not be the case in our industry because we're, very nerdy and full of nerds, which I love and like very nerdy myself. But when the rest of America reads and comprehends at a 4th grade level on average, that gives you an understanding of how like the miscommunications and misfires there, and the level that we're communicating at is way up here and we're totally missing it, right? So there has to be a better way of doing this.
Yeah, there is. It's called ChatGPT. You copy paste it and you say, please rewrite at a 4th grade reading level. And then you post that to your social media, right?
Yeah,
That's the solution.
And then passing that, knowing that information or whatever content of that might be pulled apart, disseminated someplace else. Anyhow, but so let's see if we get this straight. We have companies that are really trying hard to make a buck. We have companies that are supposed to be telling you how well they're doing that are making a buck. So maybe that's not real. And then we have a whole bunch of fear put out to the point to where people are paralyzed because they're like, I don't know what to do. So the solution is buy the most expensive product. But wait, that's not working. So what do we do? How much of this have we created on our own? As an industry,
a lot,
so much. There are so many times I've walked into teams where they've got like 3 different versions of the same thing that they're paying for on a regular routine basis, and it's because they got the first thing in place and then somebody didn't really understand how to run it or use it or anything else because they lost connection with that, like, what do they call those people? The customer success team, right? Because they got a new one, right, all the time, and they don't keep up with it. And then so they bought another thing that was going to do the other piece. When really all they needed, like, and this happens over and over and over again, when really all they needed to do was have a great relationship with that first person that could have told them, well, if you configure it like this, well, if you just add this one little piece, right? And it's just product knowledge of what it is that you're utilizing every day is just goes right out the door, man, as turnover happens on both sides of the fence, right? On the partner side and the customer side. And then it's like this, you don't think of it as legacy knowledge, but it kind of is, right? Because the only person that really understands that piece that's in place within your network was the person that plugged it in the first place. Yeah. I don't know. And then back to, your point about how do we communicate this without so much fear? Do you ever feel like, how whenever you go to visit like a touristy city, like for me, it's New Orleans, and you see the folks out there trying to preach the word of God, and they're like, but you're all going to go to hell first.
Right.
Whatever. But they're like, this is in New Orleans, they like to use the it ain't easy. Like they'll say something about being big and easy, right? Don't be big and easy, right? And other ways of slut shaming. But they're like, here's the word of God and it will save you. I feel like we're all like, here's the word of cybersecurity and it will save you. But
And
we
it will
look as
save you.
crazy as the people standing on the sidewalks, holding up a sign and a bullhorn, telling everybody they're going to burn in hell if they don't.
Right.
I feel like, and I'm like, we got to dial this down. Like this is, it's out of hand. No wonder they're all just not giving a shit, right? Because when I go to New Orleans, I try not to make eye contact with those people.
Yeah,
right?
I think that's a good analogy. I think that's the highlight of that we've talked through the analogy. Are we the pastors speaking on the sidewalk yelling about everyone going to hell, aka getting, hacked?
Right. Right. Megan down in our internal chat says, repent, you heathens. Yes, it's like that. Right. And I get why they don't hear us.
Yeah.
Because we look nuts, you guys.
Well, I really like the quote that came up here a little bit earlier. Silent Night. Toolbox full of high dollar tools in your garage doesn't make you a mechanic.
Right.
Right. It's got to be the people part of it. And that's where I love this, is that we can take some of this element and now you're creating a space where we can say, okay, that's nice. That's wonderful. Great. But does it work? Can we maybe try it out?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Because so much today, if you guys have never been on demos, which I'm sure most of the audience has been on a demo. I'm sorry, friend. You need a demo trauma hug. It's okay. It's somebody else always driving the car. Who goes and tests out a car that you're going to purchase and the salesman gets in the driver's seat and says, all right, let's take a ride. What?
Yeah.
No, that's how I get car sick. I don't want you to drive. I want to drive.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. And one of I think the things that brought my co-founder and I together was to marketing background. We met, I was actually giving a talk on B2B Instagram marketing. Which first of all, I hate the term B2B because it totally removes the human element. You're still selling to a human in a business. Shocker. Don't forget this. There's still a human at the other end.
Right.
But one of the reasons I think gelled is because the hill I will die on as a founder is community-led growth, because people are still trying, like at the end of the day, you're talking to another human. We're all just trying to find our tribe. If you can form connection and community, you're going to be more successful, wildly successful if you have, a whole host of human beings behind you, cheering you on and rooting for your success. And if you have a community. And so I think that, we've removed the human element from marketing. I know Clark Barron rants and raves about MarTech. If you don't know Clark Barron, he's like the curmudgeon of cybersecurity marketing. Please go find him. He's a good listen. He echoes everything I say, except he's more curmudgeonly than I am, which I find I'm pseudo curmudgeonly. I try to be a little bit more of an optimist, but
I've got one of those. I call it a Chris Roberts, though.
Oh yeah. Chris Roberts too. Hi, Chris, if you're watching.
Yeah, and Danny Wolf. Yeah,
absolutely. We've removed the human element, and I just feel like the way I built was successful. My marketing agency was building community. I found like-minded business owners, brought them together. Had a whole podcast around that, and only wanted to work with those people that shared my same values. So I built my tribe online of other business owners and was successful that way. And I think that if companies in cyber are able to do the same thing, they'll be successful. And so our community actually existed before the company did. My co-founder had a Discord community that he had built, and it has been central to everything we've done as a company. And so we have leaned into community-led growth. We have a lot of plans for how we want to leverage the community in the future. I'll give you a little bit sneak peek, but what we would love to have in the future is like evergreen CTFs on the website where the community can participate, and like we call it Twitch for Hackers, where you can come in and do a POC and stream yourself, like here's what I'm doing and here's how I use this, and Q&A with vendors, and like really just forming community and connection is really what it's all about, and bringing people together. And that's not how we sell products now.
No, it's not. You can't even, like, again, if I go and I buy a major appliance for my house, I can go to my favorite search engine of choice and go, I want to buy a dishwasher. It will pop up with a million different dishwashers, all the different price points, and I can sort it out all by different, filters, right? I want a white one or a pink one, or I want, one that's under $200, right? I don't know if there's a dishwasher for under two. There might be. Anyway,
it won't last you longer than a year if there is.
Probably not.
You're bored. It's about this.
Maybe it may even hijack your network.
But if you are not building a community of trusted people in your local area or within your industry or whatever, who are you going to go and take software experiences and compare them to? Mm-hmm. There's no just trustworthy reviews up there, right? Because like we said earlier, it's all pay to play kind of situation. And those are the people that get their voices screamed the loudest, right? Because somebody on the other end is like, well, we're going to pump that up to the top. And it's crap. I one of my favorite things is that there are these little secret groups that are out there that I don't know if I got into one by mistake once. You guys, I thought I was in the Illuminati. I was like, oh my God, am I okay to be here? I need an adult. But they were sharing the prices of the same like software that they had bought with each other, and then also their experiences among themselves. And this was just like a couple of C-suite level folks that were just like buddies. You know what I mean? They're just buddies and pals. But they had like all their stuff out, and I was like, oh no, like, do the resellers that screw this up think about this shit, that they're gonna go, like, they're gonna tell a friend and go run back with it, right?
Hey,
and like, hey,
I'll give you a clue. In higher ed, there are areas that everybody is talking to everybody else.
Yeah. We know, and that's part of building, your network. And I used to run some of those tables. After I saw the idea, I was like, we need to do more of this. Like, I started making people friends. I was like, all right, you guys, look, don't stay over there in that corner. Look, this personality meets with this personality. And I would shove all those personalities into a table together and they would vibe. Right. Yeah. And then they would start being resources for each other. And I was like, look at it go. It's the happiest little group of, we're not going to get screwed over anymore.
Right.
It's fantastic. I love it when that stuff happens.
Yeah.
And
well, one of the things we tell students all over the place, because higher ed across this country, right? You take your Windows class, you take your Linux class, you take your network class, but you don't get the class where you have a Linux front end that has to talk to a Microsoft backend over a network, right? And that's what we're trying to solve there. So as this impending element is coming up of adversaries coming against us in this current ecosphere, what's the solution? What I mean, you're obviously doing this in your company to create areas that you can try stuff out and do. But from your perspective on a broader range, how can we do this better? How can we make a difference?
Yeah, I mean, sorry, I was distracted by the pup in the background. Hi, pup.
Squirrel.
I mean, I think it all comes back to it all comes back to community. Is my answer to that, and just building those relationships and ensuring strong community is part of it. But then I think, the best collaborative efforts we'll see will come out of that. And one of the things that also came up in a conversation recently with someone was like, there's also no buying course. Like, how do you even buy or evaluate tools? If your CISO asks you to start evaluating these things, what do you even look for? Like, how do you even go about that process? And going back to community, where they're starting is they're going to their super secret little squirrely chats, and they're talking to other people, and they're saying, what have you done? I don't even know where to start. Tell me your buying experiences, all of that kind of stuff. But I'm not sure I have a better answer for you on how the systems work together. But I think, that would have to be collaborative. Maybe the community can have a better answer for that one than I have.
Yeah, we've got students right now. Just came up on our Discord. We have a student who has now gone out into a company. They thought, well, this guy's incredible, and he is. And so it's now the boss says, go out and get something really expensive to do a complete Wi-Fi coverage area. And he's like, I have no idea where to go. I have no idea who to buy from, but I think I can do it if I just take some Raspberry Pis and use and they come up with their range solution. So yeah, the community is definitely needed. I remember when I came on in my areas of higher ed. Fortunately, I had some folks before me, but it's a jungle out there.
Right.
And that's where folks like Rachel and her group, if you find somebody who's actually a partner and not just trying to sell you folks, because you also see that with some of the sales folks, right, Rachel, that go from company to company to company. It's like, okay, let's see, it's week 4. They're probably at this company now.
Yeah. They bounce around a lot. You know what? It's and Will, you've asked me to do this before, and I don't know where I'm gonna do it, buddy, because I've started to put together the presentation on basic, to Mariana's point, like, how do you buy this stuff? Where do you go? Where do you start? Your boss says we're gonna do project X. Now evaluate this amount of providers or vendors for this project, and they're just like, what do I do? What do I do?
You may start with a Google search, and what's going to come up is 12 sponsored results, which is not it's not valid, other than they have a good SEO game, right? So that's not a good valid, indication of what you should actually be buying. You then maybe have a little list of a couple things, and you're like, well, shit, I don't know. And then you go to the community, and you're like, well, tell me all the things that you did, right? So again, we're having the same conversation about community, because they're starting there, right? So for us, it has made sense since the very beginning to lean into that. And also shout out Jack. Hi, Jack. Good to see you.
Oh, you know Jack Lambert? What?
I do.
Who doesn't know Jack Lambert? He's such a social butterfly. But yeah, no, we all hi Jack. But I'm putting it together. But look, Will, I gotta tell you, I know we're kind of trashing a little bit on vendors, right? And talking about some of the things that we see. I want to say something good. Without vendor marketing dollars, without vendor sponsorship, without the fancy parties, we would have less places to gather en masse.
True.
Because 100% they create the spaces for us to have Black Hat, DEF CON, sides, right? Like all of Hacker Summer Camp, right? This is good, and it's good intentions, and you should be friends with your vendors.
Right.
But understand that it's nothing personal. It's just business at the same time. And they are friendly and very helpful, and you'll find the ones, and that's what I do. I go around and I collect all the salespeople that are not scum of the earth. And I bring them with me. If there's somebody hanging out with Rachel, you should know that they're
Rachel's stamp of approval.
They're good quality people.
People
do not suck.
Rachel, I need to correct you on that.
Why? Because you suck? Do you secretly?
No. The point of saying it's just business, not personal. Remember, You've Got Mail, where in there he says just business. She said, shouldn't it always start with being personal? And Rachel, you always start with being personal.
But I'm allowed to. I'm allowed to. I'm given the space to do that. Not everybody is given the space to do that. And that's what I'm trying to point out.
That's the problem. Everyone should have that space, because after all, shouldn't it always be personal? Because if we're trying to create a community, right, Mariana? If we're trying to create the community that you're talking about, where we're helping each other out, and we need to because of what's coming, shouldn't it always start with being personal?
It should. That's what I mean, though, is that, like, I wanted to focus on at least a good thing. I can't just sit here and trash vendors forever.
No,
Like,
there are some
No.
really great vendors out there who I really
Yeah.
love, who have amazing CEOs, and
Yes.
also at the same time, like I have met amazing VCs. All right, it all depends on what your priorities are, and you need to sift through the folks who are only care about getting a bang for your buck or whatever, who are focused on that and the bottom line, and the rest of it doesn't matter. And you got to sort through that. And there are a lot of really incredible folks in cybersecurity. Like I said, if I hadn't felt that, I wouldn't still be here. In an earlier life, my friends would have described me as a social justice warrior. Now I've kind of just adapted it for truth and justice and cybersecurity warrior.
Good.
Thank you. That's too big to put on a badge, though. We got to shorten that up a little bit.
Maybe another acronym. We could throw another acronym. Like, there's room for more acronyms, aren't there?
TAJI. No, that's not it.
Oh man.
Yeah. If we can get back to some simplicity, there's room for, of course, everyone understands you're trying to make money. I mean, everyone needs to be able to have security in their home to be able to do what they need to do.
Right.
No, everyone understands that. No big deal. That's where it needs to become that personal, that everybody cares.
Yeah. Yes. So I was like 100% on for GERCON, and then it's out of tickets. So if anyone has an extra ticket, I will happily be at GERCON. Tickets, if anyone has some, I will pay for a ticket. I'm not asking for a free one. I will be there. If you all have some tickets, I'll be at GERCON.
Oh, people are always like, Rachel, can you get me a ticket? Can you get me a ticket? And I'm like,
that's because you know people. You're the API.
And you know what is so sad? I love the conference so much that I will start pestering everybody I know that's going. I'll be like, "Do you got a free ticket? You got another one? You got an extra one anywhere?"
I know. I missed the boat. I talked to someone in Black Hat. He's like, "Are you going?" And then I got online. It was like, "We're sold out," and I was like, "Dang it!"
It is.
I will definitely be at CornCon too. That's one of my favorites. I haven't been to CornCon in Iowa.
I've heard of this. Okay, so have you been? You've been to
I went last year to CornCon.
That was your first one?
It was the first one. Yes.
Okay. So how many days is it?
It's 2.
Okay.
Yes.
And what's the size? Like, how many in attendance? Because that's important to me.
I think maybe 300 to 500.
Okay. Oh, good.
Yeah.
It's the intimate ones.
Yeah,
I like those. Okay. Because I think you get to look, it's so fun whenever I go. If you ever see me at a smaller like conference of that size, like when I go to the big conferences, it's really hard for me to just pick people out of the hallway and be like, that's it, you're going to lunch because you look hungry, right? At the smaller conferences, I will 100% walk up to people that look like they're just disoriented or anything like that. I don't even care who you are, what you do, or who you work for, but I'll just grab them by the hand. I'm like, you look like you need a sandwich. Come with me.
So I met the 80s InfoSec man, Matt. Oh, I always mispronounce his last name. It's like Schurrer, SCHEURER, Schurrer, something like that. We met at CornCon, and you'll know him if you see him. He walks around. He looks like he could be in like an 80s hair band. That's his shtick. So you'll know him. He was in Vegas with like a silver jacket and the headband and the glasses and like the
That's awesome.
like the fingerless gloves. I mean the whole shebang. But we met it. We met it at CornCon. But yes, anyway, sidebar.
No, those are great. Those are my favorite one. There's one that frequents all the New Orleans like security conferences, and we all just call him Chef. Nice. And it's because he used to be, and he'll correct me if I'm wrong, but we've had him on the show. You've met him, Will, Chef. He came on before, but anyway, the backstory was
he does this to me. I can never remember names, period. So
I'm like, episode 947, minute 15, and second marker 21 with the times. Will, what are you doing? I
don't
know. His backstory was really cool. The reason why he started getting being called chef was because he was doing penetration testing on like restaurant chains, and he just found like a pair of chef's
remember now.
pants. Yep, he just found a pair of chef's pants and would just walk in the back kitchen, or it wasn't a chain of restaurants. It was just places, and they happened to have restaurants there. He would get access to everything within the building through the back door because the cooks always propped it open to smoke cigarettes.
There you go. That does, yeah. Having done some restaurant work in my time in college, that doesn't surprise me at all.
Hands.
Chef pants. That's the key. That's the key. It's like Doogie Howser. You just throw a stethoscope around you, and that. I think that gives you some cred too. Stethoscopes also.
They do automatically. I know. I feel like I have earned a PhD when I have a stethoscope around my neck. I do. I'm like, I'm in charge and I can listen to shit. It's going to be fine. We are going to have to wrap up soon. Look at that. Oh my God. Time flies, man. We've got like 3 minutes left.
I know.
Wow.
Time flies when you're having fun dunking on a whole industry. No, I'm just kidding.
Our moderator in the background says, let the yelling commence. 3 minutes.
Well, Mariana, you're about to head to another podcast, right?
I have one in like an hour or so. I have another podcast, HACKERverse.tv. Yes.
You have some time in between.
I have a little bit. I got to run some kids around town for, just fun parent life. Got to chaperone some kids around. But HACKERverse.tv, I have Chris Glandon on today, who is the co-founder or the founder of Barcode. They are a boutique cybersecurity firm, but he also has an interesting background. He's making like an indie film about hacking. So I'm interested to hear more about that. So
wow. Well, I saw it earlier in our pre-show and I hit the attend button so that I would listen in. So
all right, you get the inside scoop. But yeah, I got to meet him in person in Vegas, which was really fun.
Very cool.
Well, I'm glad that you have some time in between so you don't go to the next podcast. Let me tell you about vendors.
That could be real aggressive.
We've done that before. I'm sure he would join in the dunking with me. Here's an idea in the last 1 minute. Dunk a vendor, I think would be a great booth at Black Hat DEF CON. Anyone interested, you pay $100 per ticket. We'll get some vendor CEOs up there. I would be in the dunking booth, although I would like to think I'm a little bit more popular. But dunk a vendor could be a fun way to raise some funds for something.
I like it. Oh, I may have an announcement at GERCON to make that has something to do with raising funds and scholarship and ideas and things. So maybe that'll be our first. I'm going to look, I'll put a poster up that says Mariana made us do it. And right, because I don't want to just steal your ideas blatantly, but like that might be a thing that we do.
All right. I'm game. I'm game. It'll be, if I'm in the dunking booth, then people, it'll be, I guess, less offensive if Mariana made me do it, and she's also volunteered to be in the dunking booth.
But what we need, I would not put effort into dunking you. I'd be like, I need somebody mean and aggressive up there, like really with some gnashing teeth and like really looks evil, Oh, man, that's going to be a fun event. We're doing that now. Oh, now I'm too excited. Okay. So
do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, there we go. Thank you, Will.
Oh, yeah. I mean, just follow along. We will be releasing the next version of our product in October. Lots of fun stuff happening. We may or may not be part of Techstars. Announcement coming on September 9th. We're may or may not, because we're not supposed to publicly announce anything. But so
sure. That's how I do things.
Follow along on September 9th to find out if it's a may or a may not.
Let me know.
Yeah. So absolutely, would love to keep everyone on board. Follow me on LinkedIn. Connect with me. I'm known for doing virtual coffees. If we haven't met yet, reach out. We'll connect. We'll form a community, an in-person relationship.
What? I like it. It's going to be great. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you also to our wonderful audience of commenters who found us on the YouTube because the LinkedIn thing broke today. Whatever. It's a thing that happens. We're used to it. That's why we push this out to like 4 different places. One of them's bound to stick. And we'll see you next week. I don't even know who we're having next week. Meg, do you know who we're having next week? You're supposed to keep me up on this stuff. Are we doing one next week? We are. Oh, it's Tim Wainwright from SRA. If you guys are not familiar with SRA, that's okay. Tim will tell you all about it. So come back and hang out with us next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. We'll get the LinkedIn thing working. Promise. Have a great, it's Labor Day.
Yes, have a good weekend.
Who's not working on Monday? Good job. Who's trying to scramble and figure out what they're going to do with their kids because they're out of school? Me. Anyway, have a great weekend. Be safe out there, you guys, and we'll see you next week. Thank you so much for grabbing a cup and